So in today's session, we'll just go through these concepts called as role concept in Fusion applications and user management, and the other concept is functional setup manager. Okay, we'll just get some idea on this how that roles concept is works in the Fusion applications and how users can be managed in the Fusion application. The third point is what is the purpose of functional setup manager and what are the key uh, kind of features which are available from functional setup manager in terms of system configuration. Okay, we'll go through one by one. The first concept is roles concept in Fusion applications. Fine. Roles. Okay. Okay, before we just go and talk on this roles concept in the Fusion application, let's try to just get some we'll just get some idea and we'll discuss few points on how the complete user access works in the EBS environment. When you talk about EBS, okay, it can be 11i or R12. When you talk about EBS, so we have a concept called as menus, right? We have a concept called as menu. The menu consists of submenus. Voice is not audible. Oh, just 1 second. Yeah, can you hear me now? Fine. So in EBS, we have a concept called as menu. The menu consists of submenus. Within the submenu, we'll have a functions. Okay. Okay. Fine. Still, if you have some issue with this audio, please let me know. Fine. So when you talk about EBS, we have a concept called as menu. Menu consists of submenus. Submenu consists of functions. And if you want to have access to entire menu or submenu or functions, what we do, we'll create the responsibility. We'll create the responsibility, and as a part of responsibility definition, we'll be selecting the menu or submenus or functions. Those may be seeded, you can select, or else as per your requirement you can customize. Okay, you can select as a part of responsibility definition so that user will be able to access to relevant menu or submenu or functions. Okay, we'll see the sequence of process which you follow. We'll create responsibility, then what we do, we'll assign primary ledger. If it applicable responsibility is going to be responsibilities belongs to subledger application, will assign operating unit, right? We'll assign primary ledger and operating unit to responsibility. Then finally, this responsibility will assign to user. Then what to do? We'll create user, then assign responsibility to user. Okay. This is a standard process we follow when we are working on EBS. Okay. We have a menus, submenus, functions, responsibility. We'll create responsibility, assign primary ledger and operating units to responsibilities. Then we'll create user. Finally, we'll assign responsibility to user, so that from that user can have access to responsibility. Through responsibility, okay, user will get permissions to work on relevant area. It can be entire main menu or submenu or functions. Now we'll move on to Fusion. How this can be managed in the Fusion applications. Okay. So Fusion, we have a concept called as roles. First, we'll try to understand what are the roles. Then we'll just compare with the EBS related menus under these concepts. So what I'll do is I'll take the point here. Okay. Okay. Equal to menu, in Fusion we have a role called as job role. Okay. Equal to menu, in Fusion we have a job role, and equal to submenu, in Fusion we have a duty role, and equal to functions, here also we call as functions or futures or permissions, you can say. Okay, fine. So let's just let me list out first roles. We'll go with the comparison later and all. First we'll just let me list out what are the roles we have. In Fusion application, basically we have 4 type of roles. Those are job roles, duty roles, data roles, and abstract roles. Okay, basically in the Fusion application we have these 4 type of roles. Okay, we have these 4 type of roles. Sorry. So job role, what is a job role? Job role is equal to menu as per EBS. This is equal to EBS. As per EBS, this is equal to menu. Duty role is equal to submenu. Okay, job role is equal to menu, duty role is equal to submenu. Data role, see here we have a responsibility, and responsibility what we do, will assign to, sorry, this will have a responsibility, this primary ledger and operating units will assign to responsibility, right? This combination I mean to say, okay, when you talk about responsibility, within the responsibility we have a menu, right? So when you talk about data role is equal to menu plus primary ledger or operating unit. This is how we can understand the combination of menu and primary ledger, only primary ledger. In case of GL case, menu plus primary ledger, this combination we call as data role. Or if you are going to use this, okay, if you are going to work on any subledger application, the menu plus primary ledger and operating, this combination we can understand as a data role. Means data role is equal to this, okay, the primary ledger, operating unit, and responsibility. Okay, when you talk about abstract role, okay, this is nothing but just it's a role which need to be assigned to every employee. Okay, this is a role which need to be assigned to every employee. So job roles equal to menus, duty roles are equal to submenus, data role is equal to a menu plus primary ledger and operating unit. Okay, if you go with some examples, I'll say in the Fusion job role, one of the job role is payables manager. Okay, job role example is payables manager or receivables manager. Okay, or a payable specialist or receivable specialist. Any name you can take. Please. Okay, fine. When I talk about job role, sorry. Okay, so job role is equal to payables manager. One of the job role name is payables manager. When you talk about duty role, this is equal to menu. In payables, we have a menu called as seated menu called as AP Navigate GUI. So that is equal to payables manager. And duty role. For duty role example, it's equal to submenu, right? Duty role is equal to submenu. You can take example as, say, within the payables manager, the payable manager can work on invoicing process and payment process. You may have a duty role as invoice process. When I talk about data role, say, you can take data role will always refer, means you have a payables manager. The payables manager will related to particular operating unit, right? The payables manager will be working for specific operating unit. In that case, you may call as, you say you have one operating unit in India. In that case, I can take example as India payables manager. Okay, India payables manager. Abstract role is nothing but employee. Okay, basically whatever the employee role we call as abstract role. For every employee, that means for every employee, automatically system will use the role called as abstract role. With the abstract role, there is nothing will be just doing in the system. It is automation process. Only we have to understand these three type of roles: job role, duty role, data role, and abstract role. Job role is equal to, as per EBS, menu. Duty role is equal to submenu. Okay, duty role is equal to submenu, and data role is equal to menu plus primary ledger and operating unit, or else menu plus primary ledger. Okay, so here there is no concept called as responsibility. In Fusion application, we don't have any concept called as responsibility. Why we have a concept called as responsibility in the EBS? Reason is, if you want to give access to any menu or submenu or function, that we can group through responsibility only. Without creating the responsibility, you cannot assign primary ledger or operating unit to particular menu or submenu or functions. Okay, so user require access to so and so menu, but if you want to assign primary ledger or operating unit to particular menu or submenu or function, that is not possible in EBS without defining the responsibility. While you are defining the responsibility, you can select the menu or submenu or functions, and then you'll be able to assign the primary ledger to operating units. Yeah, we'll discuss on that. We have points just yeah. Ashutosh will discuss on that. We have a concept user management here as we just planned today's session. Okay, user management at that time we'll discuss on that point. Okay, in EBS, without creating the responsibility, you cannot assign any primary ledger or operating unit to responsibility. But in Fusion, you no need to create the responsibility. So directly you'll be able to map primary ledger or operating units to particular menus. Here menu is equal to these roles. Okay, so that concept we have in Fusion. That is the reason we don't have any concept called as responsibility. Okay, you have a payables manager called as job role. Directly you can assign your primary ledger to payables manager, or else you can assign the operating unit to payables manager. You have a duty role called as invoice process. Okay, so directly you can assign the primary ledger or operating unit in Fusion application. We'll discuss what operating unit will be called and all. Already we discussed that we call as business unit. As per Fusion, operating unit will be calling as business unit. But anyway, that point we'll see later. Now just we are trying to understand based on EBS comparison. So that is the reason just always I'm referring as operating unit. Sorry. So this is the point we have to understand before we just get into the application to create the whatever the roles we require. Okay, and out of these four roles, you can find all the job roles and duty roles as a seeded roles, and data roles system will create automatically whenever we create our primary ledger under operating unit. I mean to say as per Fusion BU business unit, we have a seeded job roles, and we have a seeded duty roles, and we have a seeded abstract roles. But data role system will create automatically. How system will create automatically? Say for example, I'm going to work on. I'm just going to work on payables manage. I'm going to work for payables, so I need access to job role called as payables. Okay, I'm going to work on accounts payables application. I need job role called as payables. So when you are going to work on payables, the payables functions, okay, always should refer the operating unit or say as per Fusion business unit. So in that case, whenever you create the business unit, means operating unit as per EBS, whenever you create your business unit, say I'm just going to create a business unit called as say India business unit. Let's take simple example. Company name is ABC business unit. When you create any business unit, what system will do is automatically it will create the data role. Okay, so for payables we have a job role called as payables manager. It will take the payables manager, and the payables manager require access to which business unit? ABC business unit. So with this mapping, automatically system will create the data role. This combination, payables manager is one of the job role, and this is the ABC business unit is business unit name. Whenever you create the business unit, system will assign this business unit to the payables manager. This combination, okay, job role plus business unit combination, we are calling as a data role. This is one of the data role name you can understand. Okay, this is how system will create automatically whenever you create your business unit or primary ledger. Okay, so these are the different roles we have. Okay, job role, duty role, data role, and abstract role. Job role, duty roles are seeded, and the data role system will create automatically based on the user action, whatever the user creating, whatever definition user is doing, based on that it will create the data role. Abstract role also seeded. Example for abstract role is employee or contingent worker. Contingent worker means contract employees. Okay, so this is the point we have to understand when you talk about job roles, roles in the Fusion application. If you have any questions on this point, please ask me. We'll discuss and we'll proceed to next step. Yes, role process same for all the applications. Okay, the role process same for all the application. When you talk about payables, okay, for payables, Oracle is giving some seeded roles. All the seeded roles you can find from APM. We have application called as APM, stands for authorization policy manager. Okay, yes. Here the question is, do we need to create the job roles or all are seeded? So these job roles, duty roles, abstract roles are seeded, but as per our requirement. So in EBS, what we do, Oracle is providing the seeded, but still as per user requirement, okay, business requirement, we'll be creating the custom menus. Okay, custom menus. In the same way, in Fusion also, you can create our own job roles, custom duty roles, custom data roles. These three you can create as per your requirement. But abstract role, when you talk about, that is fixed, you no need to create. Just where system has to understand the user is going to behave as an employee or user is, it's not like just employer role. That will see like what purpose and all. When you create one user, just generally system has to identify that user, whether the user is employee or just user. Okay, that if some user is going to involve in the business process, definitely that user need to be classified as a employee. For that reason, we'll be using the abstract role. These three other roles we can create as per our business requirement. We can create the custom job roles, custom duty roles, custom data roles. Okay, so when you talk about payables, when you talk about EBS payables, okay, your question is if I want to update, just let me go through these questions which I'm getting. Is the role process same for all the application? Yes, we discussed. Yes, same. We need to define the job role, or can we use that? We can use the default, or else as per your requirement, you can create your own. Custom roles can be created. Please mute yourself. Okay. The other question is the duty role is also seeded or can we customize? Yes, everything we can customize. Job roles you can customize, duty roles you can customize, data roles also can be customized. What if we want to update the roles? So Chaitu means you're just, I mean you mean to say like you want to do some changes within the role. Chaitu, can you answer to my question? Yes, okay. Yes, we can do that. Anytime you can go and do the changes. Say in EBS, you created one custom role. You created one custom menu. Anytime you go and do some changes. Okay, in the same way here also you can do the changes as per requirement. And EBS also got user role functions through sysadmin. What is the difference from EBS to Fusion? No roles in EBS and sysadmin, we don't have any roles and all. Those are menus will be calling, you will understand how it's different. There just everything will be handled through responsibility concept. Responsibility will be assigning to user, the user will be accessing to the application through responsibility concept. But here there is no concept called as responsibility. In the place of responsibility, will be using the concept called as roles. Okay. See, because when you are working as a functional consultant, we don't just work on any roles concept functional. There is one module called as user management in the EBS. There you can set role based access and all. That's totally different. No, in EBS, my answer is on EBS from sysadmin, we don't set any roles and all. Okay, it's all about we'll create users. As per the user role, we'll be assigning the particular responsibility which will give access to the user for specific functions or particular application. Okay. Yes, like upgrading. Yes, yes, same. So user management. Srini, what is your question? User. Okay, you just talked. Okay, fine. Data roles will be system generated based on the job roles for all created BUs. Can we customize the data roles also? Yes, yes. We can create. System will create the data roles automatically based on uh, business units creation or primary ledger creation. But still we can create our custom data roles also. Yes, possible. In our course, we'll create those custom roles also. Custom data roles also will be creating. Okay, how to create this, all whatever we're discussing, we'll see in our session. Okay, we can do that. AD, may I know your good name? Just I don't see like your name. Fine. Okay. Done. Any other questions? Okay, there is nothing much to understand here. The first point I'm trying to introduce here, what are the roles we have in the Fusion application. When you compare those roles with the EBS, okay, how we can relate those roles in the existing concepts called as menus, submenus, and responsibilities. That's it. And here what we do is we have all the job roles. Okay. Okay, fine. Okay, we have all these job roles, duty roles, data roles, and abstract roles. So I'm going to create the primary ledger. So I'm going to create the primary ledger. And I'm sorry, I think we are discussing about APM. So APM, Authorization Policy Manager. Within this, Oracle already predefined for which application, what are the seeded roles generally require. On that base, they are providing the predefined roles. If you take example of payables, for payables they given the roles. Okay, for payable application, okay, for payable application they given the seeded roles called as, say, payables manager, payables supervisor, payables specialist. So for payables application, these are the three seeded roles. These seeded roles, what we call job roles. Basically, this we call as job roles. For accounts payable application, Oracle is providing three job roles. Okay, three job roles. Now what I will do is, in this case, if I'm going to create the operating unit, if I'm going to create the, of course, it's a business unit. If I'm going to create the business unit in the Fusion application, saying that, say, Hyderabad business unit, I'll create one business unit called as Hyderabad business unit. Now system, what it will do is automatically it will create these three we are calling as job roles. Now what system will do is, for these three job roles, because three job roles are belongs to accounts payable application, accounts payable application will be working as per enterprise structure or multi-org environment at BU level, right? As per EBS operating unit level, as per Fusion you can say BU level. So that payables application will be mapped at BU level. That is the reason that BU will be assigned to all these job roles. Now what it will do is, it will be adding this business unit to these three job roles. Now what we'll do is, one system will assign this, add this business unit to these job roles. Automatically this you can this combination will be calling as a data role. This is a data role, this is also data role. This combination is equal to responsibility in EBS. Responsibility means, after we'll create responsibility, and to responsibility will assign the primary ledger and operating unit. Okay, after completing the definition, okay, that kind of responsibility is equal to this data role. Okay, but we don't have any concept called as a responsibility in a Fusion, but comparison point of view, this data role is equal to responsibility. Why I'm just comparing, why I'm just relating this data role with the responsibility? In EBS we'll assign the responsibility to user. Through responsibility only user can access to any feature within the application, any function. The same way, one system will create the data role, these data roles will assign to user. Okay, we have to assign the data roles to user. Okay, when if any user is going to work on any application, we have to give the permissions to that user through data roles only. Then as a user, okay, they log into the system application. Whatever the data role is assigned to that user, based on that they can start working on the system environment. Okay, so these are the points we have to understand when we talk about the roles concept in the Fusion application. If you have any queries on this, please write in the chat window, or else you can unmute yourself and you can ask me a direct question if you don't have any kind of background noise from your end. How is data roles mapped to the ledger? Yeah, so fine. How data roles are mapped with the ledger? Okay, 1 second, just let me go to any other point here. How data roles are mapped to the ledger? So what do you mean by data role? Data role, I said already, the combination of job role plus business unit, or job role plus ledger only. When you say data role, okay, within the data role you may have combination of like job role plus business unit or job role plus ledger. See, I'll take simple example. When I talk about general ledger application, okay, for general ledger application, Oracle is providing by default, okay, 5 job roles. Okay, say for example here I'll take one role called as I'll take one of the role called as general accounting manager. This role will be using this role we have for general ledger application. Okay, okay, or else you may take as a controller as a one of the role for general ledger. This we call as job role. This is one of the job role which is available for general ledger application, which you can see from APM. We'll see when we are working, but now just for discussion, this is one of the job role which we have for general ledger application. Now say I'm going to create one primary ledger. So I'll create ABC primary ledger. Now what system will do? It will create the data role called as general accounting manager ABC primary ledger. Now this combination will be calling as a data role. For data roles, we don't need to assign anything. If something is assigned to job role, okay, it can be primary ledger or business unit. That combination will be calling as data role. No need to assign anything to data role. Once something is assigned to job role, then only that will become data role. Ashutosh, did I answer your question, or still you have some confusion on that?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I wanted to know, like, when we're creating the operating unit,
Hmm.
and let's say that particular operating unit has to be assigned to some other ledger,
Yeah,
then
yeah,
how do we do that?
I got the point. What we'll do is, in that case, when you are creating an operating unit, okay, the operating unit you have to assign to particular job role. In that case, process wise, what happens is, so here in Fusion, what happens is, will be mapping, will be assigning, okay, we'll assign primary ledger to business unit to job role. Okay, once I assign the job, once I assign the BU to job role, already primary ledger will be assigned to business unit. Okay, BU will be assigned to job role. Okay, before that, that BU require access to which primary ledger. That primary ledger will assign to BU. Then BU will be assigning to job role. Finally, that will become, okay, data role, right? That will become data role. when you look into the data role, this is how the combination you can see. Say for example, I'm taking the job role as a payables manager. So payables manager plus we assigned business unit called as Hyderabad business unit. Okay, just let me look into here any offline. Fine. Okay, so Hyderabad business unit plus say primary ledger name is India ABC primary ledger. So this we call as data role here. So how do you assign primary ledger to particular business unit? Okay, first how to assign primary ledger to particular job role means directly we cannot assign. I think somebody and just unmuted. Please mute yourself. So we cannot directly assign primary ledger to job role. In EBS, directly we can assign primary ledger to responsibility and operating unit also to responsibility. Direct assignment by using the profile options. In Fusion, when you are working on the finance, hardly you never come across through profile options also. You don't need to set any profile options also here. The mapping and all will be done by system, or else manually also we can do that kind of mapping. So here when I have a job role, directly we cannot assign primary ledger to job role. Okay, if the application is related to subledger applications, I'm talking about that. Okay, if the application is related to, I say application is general ledger application, yes, directly system will be assigning the primary ledger to GL related job roles. But when you talk about subledger, say payables or receivables, directly you cannot assign any primary ledger to AP or AR related job roles. That process we have to do through business unit only. First we will be assigning the primary ledger to business unit, then the business unit will be assigning to the particular payables or receivables related job role. That's how we can do the mapping. Okay, that anyway that will just come across when we are working on those. PL is assigned to BU in function. See where we'll be assigning that we'll see in that course. Okay, so in the setup part we'll be assigning. Setups we'll do in the function setup manager only. Yes, we'll be doing from there only. But that level you don't need to think now. Whatever we are discussing, those you can understand. Okay, how this, if you understand this concept, then this will help us to work on relevant areas. Okay, so MO operating profile option is not used. Yes, there's no MO profile option or GL ledger name or nothing. No profile options when you are going to work on financials. Okay, there is no scope of using the profile options. No scope, no profile options. Okay, why we are using the MO operating unit profile option? To assign the operating unit to responsibility. Here we don't have a concept called as responsibility. The place as a menu they are giving the job roles. So the operating unit here we are calling as business unit. Business unit automatically will get assigned to job role. That combination will become data role. So we don't need to do any kind of, we don't need to set any profile option for assignment or mapping purpose in Fusion applications. Okay, any other questions? While creating the multi-org, there is no need for profile options. Yes, exactly. In the fusion environment, when we are creating the enterprise structure, here we call the multi-org as enterprise structure. In this environment, you don't need to set any profile option, not required. How MOEC will work in Fusion application, that we'll see in the system only. How MOEC will work, like here also no profile options required. How it will be working and all same as EBS functionality wise, but definition and all slightly different compared to EBS, and that with that model only it will be working. Here also no profile option. Okay, how MOEC will be working means just that we have to see in the system, right? Okay, in our course we have that MOEC also. When we are working we can understand that. Now we cannot demonstrate on that how it works on detail level. Okay, fine. Yep. Any other questions? Okay, you can unmute and you can ask me if you don't have any background noise from your end. You can, instead of typing, which takes time and all. Okay, you can just unmute and you can ask me the question so that we can discuss on that point. Any other questions? Fine. Okay. If we don't have any questions, we'll move on to next point. Okay. So I hope you are clear on these roles and all. Just simple point we have to. This is a process we follow in the EBS. Coming to Fusion applications, you no need to do all those activities. Of course, this anyway we are not creating and all. Generally, what we do, we'll create responsibility, we'll assign, we'll create user, and we'll assign. But in the Fusion point of view, what you have to do, you will be creating the primary ledger or business unit. Then automatically system will create data role that will be assigning to user. That is a simple concept which need to be followed in the Fusion environment. Okay. Okay. Now we'll just move on to other concept called as user management. Okay. We'll try to understand how the user creation process and what permissions user required, why user required those kind of permissions, what type of users will be creating in the Fusion applications. Okay. Say user management in Fusion applications. So first, when we talk about EBS, in EBS what we do? Simple, very simple. We'll create user and we'll assign employee to user. We'll assign responsibilities user. That's it. This is the process we follow. Okay, when I talk about user, we don't have different classifications for the user. User means always will be creating from system administrator. The first point is users we can create from system administrator in EBS. In system administrator, we can create user, we can assign the employee to user, then finally we'll be assigning the user require access to which responsibilities, those responsibilities will be assigning to the user. Right, done. Okay. But when you talk about Fusion applications, okay, this just I'm referring related to EBS. But when you talk about Fusion, this is as for EBS. Okay, when you talk about Fusion, the user's creation will do from user creation will do from Oracle Identity Manager, we call as OIM, Oracle Identity Manager, or else you can call it as Identity Manager. In this case, short name is IDM. Both are same. So in EBS, we always create the user from system administrator responsibility or say application. But in the Fusion applications, we have to create the user from Oracle Identity Manager, OIM, or say Identity Manager, IDM. Okay. So here in EBS, just will create only one user, right? We will create two users. I mean, one user in the sense one type of user only we have. Okay, that may be required for implementation consultant. Okay, or else for employee, okay, who will be working in the organization. For these two type of users, the user can be used by implementation consultant or employee will be creating from the same place, that is system administrator, right? But when you talk about Fusion, we have two type of users. The Fusion application, okay, we have two type of users. One is implementation user, other one is employee user, or you may call it as application user. The application, when you say application, it will be just coming just as a common for implementation. Also take name in this way, okay? In Fusion applications, we have two type of users: implementation user and employee user. This implementation user we have to create from OIM, or other name is IDM. Okay, the implementation user we have to create from OIM or IDM. When you talk about employee user, the employee user we have to create from HCM. HCM stands for Human Capital Management, nothing but HRMS, HR solution. Okay, Human Capital Management. Okay, the users you can create from Oracle Entity Manager. Which user? Implementation user. Okay, implementation user you can create from Oracle Entity Manager. And when you talk about employee user, that we have to create from HCM, nothing but Human Capital Management. Okay, what is the difference between implementation user and employee user? If you create the employee user from IDM, means implementation user, from IDM you can create the user, okay, but we cannot assign employee to user. Okay, if you create user from IDM or OIM, the user you can create but you cannot assign, okay, employee to user. If you take example, approvals process, okay, approval process may be like in procurement case, the purchase order creation, okay, and other definitions, the approvals will work based on position or job role and all. Then in that case, when user is working on any activity, system will be identifying the user is associated with which user, the user level, which job is assigned, which position is assigned, as per the job and position, what is the approval limit. This is how system will be identifying. If you are going to create user from IDM, what happens is we cannot assign the employee to the user, so that process we cannot implement in the system environment. But if you are going to create the user from HCM, okay, you are creating the user from HCM. If in case of user definition from IDM, just we can create user, but we cannot assign any employee to user. So if you are creating user from HCM, at a time you can create user and employee. In just one go, we can create the user and employee. Here there is no concept called as creating user separately and assigning the employee to that user. Okay, that we don't need to perform as the two different activities. In EBS, we'll create user and then we'll go on to create the employee from HRMS. As a third step, we'll go and assign that user to, so that employee to user. 3 steps process. First step, we'll create user in system administrator. The second step is we'll go to HRMS and we'll create the employee. The third step would be that employee we have to assign to the user. 3 steps process. But in Fusion through HCM, at a time you can create the user and employee. That means when you are going to define the employee, there itself you can give the username. Okay, so that's how user and employee will be created at a time. Okay, so this is the point we have to understand. Basically, the people like which users, which employees are going to work on application process. For them, we'll create the users from HCM. when we are going to work as implementation consultant, in that case we can use the IDM. Okay, so through IDM you can create the user, but you cannot assign the employee to user. When we are working as implementation consultant, generally we don't require any access to act as a employee in the daily regular business process and all. And other difference is, if you create user from HCM, okay, if you create user from HCM, you will have all the permissions to work on the application. But if you are going to create user from IDM, there will be certain restrictions. There will be certain restrictions that we'll see when we are working on the application environment. Or else, just let's take simple example. Say I created one user from IDM, another user 1 I created from IDM, user 2 I created from HCM. Okay, financial point of view, the user which I created from IDM, by using that user I can create the supplier. I cannot create the supplier site. Okay, by accessing the application as a IDM user, I can create the supplier, but system won't allow us to create the supplier site from IDM users. But if you are acting as if you are accessing the system by using HCM user, yes, HCM user will allow you to create the supplier site also. The same way, like in when you talk about procurement also, for HCM there won't be any restrictions when they are creating the requisition or purchase order. But if you are going to use the user called as user which is created in the IDM, there will be some restrictions. With IDM user you cannot perform the requisitions and purchasing process also in the procurement. That is the reason. So we'll be majorly using the HCM user for business users. Okay, from there only we have to create. Reason, the business user need to be defined first as employee. Okay, with that employee association only we can define the user. Then based on that user, if user is going to perform any activity in the system, the controls will be active and it will be working in the system environment based on the setups. Okay, so these are the just 2 points we have to understand. The Fusion application, we can create users from IDM, or other name we have as a OIM. Sorry. Okay. Implementation user. Okay, here implementation user can be created from IDM or OIM, but employee user can be created from HCM. These two users, when those two users are accessing the application, there will be some restrictions to implementation user, but not to HCM user. And other point here, so in EBS environment, if you are going to do the implementation, which responsibility we require? To start with our implementation, which responsibility is required? Anyone just can type in the chat window. To start with our implementation, which responsibility we require? Sysadmin. Yes. If any user have access to sysadmin, okay, through the sysadmin, how many responsibilities you require you can create, and through the responsibilities, yes, through those responsibilities you'll be able to create your multi-org environment, and you can set up whatever required as per business requirement. If you don't have access to system administrator, you cannot perform any configuration related, you cannot perform any configuration in the system environment. In the same way, the Fusion application also, what we have to do is, we have some roles, we have some job roles, not duty roles. Okay, it's a simple point here. When I talk about system administrator responsibility, do we need to assign anything to system administrator responsibility? Do we need to assign some primary ledger or business unit, operating unit, or something else in the EBS environment? No, not required, because that is just for a definition purpose. That will allow us to create the definitions whatever we require in our system environment. In the same way, here in our Fusion application already we discussed, we have a concept called as job roles. When you talk about job role will give access to, job role is equal to menu, means it will give some access to the user to work on certain things, but we no need to assign anything to this job role. If you are assigning something to job role, that will be called as data role, right? But in the same way, we have some list of job roles which need to be assigned to implementation user, okay, before you start with the implementation process. We'll see what job roles we have to assign to implementation user. So what we do is, when you have a implementation user, okay, so you have implementation user. From that implementation user, if you need full access, complete privileges to perform all implementation related activities, you have to assign roles here. Okay, those roles are, you have to assign role called as application implementation consultant. Okay, we have to assign the role called as application implementation consultant role to implementation user, and we have to assign other role called as IT security manager. Okay, IT security manager. These two roles we have to assign to implementation user. Again, here one more point to understand based on the releases. Okay, now we are going to work on release 8. Okay, and we have release 9 and release 10 also, which you can see as more bug free, and there are some additional features added, but in terms of count very less. Okay, so when we are going to work on release 9 or release 10, yes, these two job roles are enough. Okay, so that these two job roles you can assign to the user, so that that user will be able to access to everything in which areas the user require access to do the implementation of any area of the application. It can be finance or procurement or PPM, project portfolio management, or anything. But if you are going to create user in release 8, okay, the recommendation is you have to assign one more role also. Okay, one more role. If you are creating a user, implementation user is in release 9 or release 10, yes, these two roles are enough. But if you are creating the user in release 8 environment, in release 8 version, what you have to do, you have to assign one more role called as system administrators. Okay, this role also recommended to assign, otherwise you don't have access to certain functions. Okay, certain privileges you don't get. Now we are going to work on release 8. So now we have to assign these three roles to user, then we'll get full access permissions where we can act as a implementation consultant to do certain configuration the system environment. But if you are going to work on release 9 or 10, you no need to assign this role. Okay, even system won't allow you to assign in release 9 and 10. It won't allow to assign this, reason not required. But in release 8, it's a mandatory you have to assign these three roles. Then you'll get full access to entire system environment to complete your implementation related configuration. Okay, so these are the points you have to understand. Okay, now if you have any queries on this user management, you can post your just question in the chat window, or else you can unmute and you can ask me the question. Before that, please make sure that you don't have much noise, background noise, which will disturb all attendees or anyone. Okay, you can post your questions in chat window, or else you can ask me directly by unmuting yourself.
Hey Lakshman, Srini here. You mentioned actually an IDM and HCM.
Yes.
So user can have without employee assignment or something through the IDM, and HCM actually user and employee assignment to do together, right?
Yes.
So typically in the real life, what is the sysadmin function here? So sysadministration, as a functional consultant, actually normally when you go live, you don't have any sysadmin responsibility in EBS.
Yes.
So normally actually system administrator actually is give all the what are the profile options and responsibilities and everything, right?
Yes.
So, but employee creation is going to be all the sole and responsibility normally in human resource people, HCM, HRMS.
Yeah.
So in Fusion, actually, what exactly the sysadmin role here?
Okay.
So is IDM or HCM?
No. See, when you talk about through HCM, you can see when you talk about this sysadmin role here is, see, when we are going to act as a means, you are going to have all the privileges. Almost sysadmin means sysadmin will be acting as an implementation consultant. So when we assign these three roles, to any user who is going to have a configuration or who is going to do kind of administration activities, user management and all. You no need to have a separate access to HCM user definition. When we have access to these three roles, the function will be available for the same user. Separately, you no need to go to that HCM area to create the HCM user, means employee user. Being an implementation consultant, you will get access to IDM or OAM and HCM related, employee related user definition screen function.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah, one more point here is in HCM, you can create employee user, but you cannot set any password security and all. Just you will be creating the user. Once you create the user from HCM, the user will be synchronized with IDM only. Whatever the user you create in HCM, the user will be synchronized with the IDM application, means Oracle Identity Manager. Through Oracle Identity Manager only you can set some password and other security related options, and from IDM only you can assign the job roles or duty roles or data roles to any user. From HCM you cannot do anything, just you will create user. Along with that, see, you have 100 employees, I'm creating 100 employees. 100 employees may not require access to our application. Out of that, say 10 users require access, in that case I'll create 10 employees, but actual employee definition will be done from HCM. But if you want to define the employee and the very basic definition, that can be done in the employee user definition window. There just you'll create the employee. When you are creating employee, if the same employee require access to the application also, you'll be giving the what username that employee required, that will be giving. Then automatically the same employee, same user information will be populated in the Oracle Identity Manager. From Oracle Identity Manager only you can set up what is the password user required and what are the security questions for the user. If a user, if any case, if user is going to uh, in case of user forget the password and all, how to reset the password, for that what are the security questions, all we can set up from here only.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, that is
Thank
it.
you.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions on this user creation, or when we compare with EBS, how it's different or something else? If you have any questions, you can ask me directly. Okay, once we get into the application, it will be more clear for you. Before just we start with that, just I'm trying to give some idea how it works. Any questions on user creation?
Srini again here.
Yeah.
Like in EBS, actually, when we have like, when you create, I mean, just given the example like procurement side, right?
Yeah.
So if we want to do any procurement activity, like creating the purchase order, maybe approval authority or something like, so we need to assign as a buyer.
Yep.
So the buyer actually has got all the employee. I mean, when you're defining the buyer, so you'll see all the employees.
Yes.
So the same thing actually is you can list, you can see all the employees in Fusion also, or we have to do here only HCM or an IDM?
No, here the employee, see, in EBS will create as a buyer. Here in this environment, the same will be defining as a procurement agent. Will be just creating as a procurement agent, and it is a when you are going to work on purchasing application, in that case you have to assign one role called as buyer. But when you are going to work on payables application, the payables application require supplier definition. If you want to create the supplier, it's a mandatory which user you are using, that user need to be classified as a procurement agent, which is equal to buyer. So being buyer or procurement agent only, you'll be able to create the suppliers. Means exactly supplier site. Here is the catch.
Okay. So normally, who's the responsible to assign those roles? Is the super user or the like OAM or HCM?
That role assignments and all. Okay, the role assignments will be we can do only from Oracle Entity Manager, not from HCM. HCM just you can give the user name only for particular employee. That's all. Nothing more than that. But that kind of definition will have a more privileges compared to IDM user. That's it. From HCM, we are not going to do any great things and all. Just we are going to create the employee. At the same time, you can give the username also. Username, then automatically that information will flow into Oracle Identity Manager. From here only, you can give any kind of permissions, roles assignment. Those role can be any role. But when you talk about classifying the user as a procurement agent, that future that we can that can be task can be done by finance consultant, or else if any procurement also getting implemented in the project, that task, that activity will be done by procurement consultant only.
Thank you. Thanks, Lakshman.
Yeah, thank you. Roles assignment can be done through APM and IDM, right? No. Okay. Roles you can assign to any user through IDM only, not through APM. APM means Authorization Policy Manager. In APM, just you can have a list of roles. You can say role templates. You can have a role templates. You can create your own roles. Those roles you can assign to those role templates. Finally, the assignment can be done only from IDM, not at all from APM. Yeah. Any other questions? Any other questions on this user definition? You can ask me questions by comparing with EBS or anything. Yeah.
The OEM and IDM, it is part of Fusion. Like I have come across this word OEM and IDM. Other than Fusion, we can. I mean, for user creations, they have used whether.
Yeah, you are right.
You
are right. You are right. I'll come to that point. Yes. See, this IDM and OEM are applications owned by Oracle. This what purpose we are using in Fusion applications? This OEM and IDM we are using for user management, where you can set very granular level of security and privileges for the users. This can be used for any other application, even EBS environment also. You can route the user maintenance process with IDM, or else it can be some third-party application. Okay, to have a great security of user management and all. Okay, the process where you can set up the grants. Okay, which will be working with the control of particular user. All these setups you can do from Oracle Identity Manager or IDM. These are not specific to only Fusion. These we have in the Fusion. Since these products are owned by Oracle, the same products can be used in other applications environment also. Okay, the purpose of Oracle Identity Manager is user creation, and you can give the access grants and all. There is lot many things which you can do with Oracle Identity Manager or OEM, where you can set very different levels of securities, the more control on the user process, many things you can set up. So that is the reason this can be used by some third party applications also for their users administration purpose.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other question? Okay, fine. Now we'll just move on to other concepts. So the third concept which is planned for today is functional setup manager. Okay, functional setup manager. See, Oracle functional setup manager. The short name is FSM. Okay. So when we are working in EBS, do you have some feature which allows us to do the multiple setups, multiple configurations? Let me give you one clue. Like in GL, do you have certain functionality or feature? Yes, ASM. Okay, accounting setup manager. In general ledger application R12 we have a accounting setup manager. Through accounting setup manager, what we can do is we can create our primary ledger, we can create our secondary ledger, reporting ledger, and we can create legal entities, even operating units, business units, and there are many other definitions which we can do. You can set up intercompany related or intracompany related setups, reporting sequence, accounting sequence, legal entities we can create. Again, legal entities we can assign to primary ledgers, the balance and segment, BSVs we can assign to legal entities. All these activities we can perform from one centralized environment, that is accounting setup manager in EBS environment, which is a part of GL. In the same way, but there are limitations. You cannot do other setups other than whatever we discussed now. But in the Fusion application, any application related configuration you can do from one place, that is FSM, Functional Setup Manager. In EBS, what we do, to complete the payable setups, always we have to switch to payables only. If you want to do the setups for multiple operating units, yes, you can use the MOAC concept, which is a by default system will create the same BU name. All right, with the same BU name, it will create security profile that you can assign to your responsibility. So from one responsibility also, you will be able to complete the setups for multiple operating units in EBS. But if you want to do the setups, okay, from for different applications all the time, you have to switch from one to other. If you want to do the setups for payables, you should be within the payables responsibility, then you can do the setups related to payables. If you want to do the setups for receivables, again you have to switch to receivables and all. This is the big task which will be doing all the time to do the setups. You may do one setup from here, and again if you have to complete another setup which is pending, again you have to switch to other responsibility. Now that you no need to do that kind of activities in the Fusion environment, because all setups can be performed from one place, that is functional setup manager. Okay, functional setup manager. Before we get into this functional setup manager understanding, what we'll do is, okay, we'll try to understand the some key terms, okay, which is used in this functional setup manager. So in EBS, what are the different application, different products we have? We have a financials area, financials family, right? Oracle financials we have, okay, and projects we have, and we have SCM, we have HRMS solutions, right? Okay, these are the different applications we have, different group of applications, right? This financial, this consists of multiple applications, GL, APR, CM and all. When you talk about project, it consists of different applications. Means a group of applications we are calling as particular family which are relevant to business area and all. So in projects we have project costing, project billing, project management, project portfolio management, and project contracts, etc. We have. When you talk about SCM, inventory, purchasing, order management, many other applications we have. When you talk about HRMS solution, here we have a different products, again core HR and payroll, and we have a different application which comes under the HR related product family. When you talk about financials, which applications we have? We have applications called as, say, general ledger, accounts payables, account receivables, okay, cash management, fixed assets, so on. Okay, we have different other applications then. Okay, when you talk about just AP, I'll take simple example as AP, accounts payables. Within this, what are the key features we have? We have a invoicing process we have, and majorly payment process and vendor management. Okay, when you talk about accounts payables, these are the major activities which will perform in the AP: invoice process and payment process, and vendor management, vendor maintenance will be doing. Okay, these same like we know very well these all these points, and these are the different solutions we have: financials, projects, SCM, HRMS. Again, when you talk about particular solution, within that we have a different applications. Every application will have a certain key features which will support that respective department business related activities. So when you talk about Oracle Fusion Functional Setup Manager, here for these we have some different naming conventions. Okay, these financials, projects, SCM, HRMS, these we call as offerings. Financials as per Fusion we call as a one offering. Projects we call as a offering. SCM we call as offering. HRMS we call as offering. Offering is nothing but some group of applications which comes under particular solution. Okay, financials is one offering. Okay, projects you can call as another offering. This all comes under offerings. Here you can say these are the 4 offerings you can understand as per the Fusion Functional Setup Manager. That's how they're given the naming convention. Okay. So within the financials, what we have applications. Here financials we are calling as one offering. That means within this financial offering, these are the applications we have. But as per Fusion, the terminology is each application we call as option. Okay, GL is one option, AP is one option, AR is one option, CM is one option, and FA is another option. Okay, particular product family we are calling as offering. Within that product family, what are the applications we have? Those applications we are calling as options. That means we have offerings. Within the offering we'll have a application. Application always option will always refer application. Fine. When you take example of AP application, means AP option. You can say option is AP. Within that here we have a different process and all. Okay, these we call as futures. Invoice process is one future, and payment process another future, and vendor management is another future. So this is the terminology we have to understand before we start working on functional setup manager. Okay, we have a offerings, and within the offerings we'll have a options, and within the options we'll have a futures. Okay, done. Okay, I hope this is clear to everyone. If you have any questions, you can ask. Further we'll be discussing on this, but whatever we are discussing on that, if you have any doubt, you can ask me. Okay, fine. Okay, seems to no doubt. Fine. So these are the points we have to understand. First we'll have a top level offerings. Offering will consist of options. Within the option we'll have a futures. Now in EBS, if you are going to do the implementation, if you are going to do any implementation project, so the project you cannot create within the application environment. You cannot create the project within the application environment. That need to be created in outside of the system. Okay, you may use separate some document and all, just to document all the what is the project process, and when you are going to start, when you are going to finish, which applications, what is the scope of implementation, what the resource are going to work for that implementation, and which resource is responsible for which application implementation. Okay, everything you can manage, you can maintain as a separate documentation and all. Okay, there is no option in our system environment to create the project which is related to implementation project. I'm not talking about project accounting that projects. I'm talking about general project implementation, right? So if you are going to do the implementation in EBS, what we'll do, everything, the scope and everything, the plan will be having within the document. Then you'll start working on the system, right? You'll start working on the system. So but in the Fusion application, what we can do is, before you just start with the implementation, okay, system implementation, you can create the implementation project also in the system itself. Okay, you can create the project in the implementation project in the system environment. To start with the implementation project in the Fusion environment, what we have to do is, first you have to create the project. First you have to create the implementation project. When you are creating the implementation project, what is the scope you have for this implementation? Those options you can select. That means while you are creating the implementation project, okay, you can select scope of the implementation. Say for example, we want to implement financials and procurement. Then here I can select. First we'll create the project. The project is going to have which scope that I can define. Then scope selection. Just here I'm taking financials and procurement. Okay, I can select the scope. Then okay, I'll be selecting financials and procurement. When you are selecting the financials and procurement, when I talk about financial offering, means you have to select the which offerings you are going to implement. Here you have to select the offerings. First we'll create the project. Which offerings you are going to implement, you have to select as a part of implementation project. Say you selected offering called as financials. But as per your client requirement, okay, the implementation you are going to do for only GL, AP and AR. Just take this simple example. Okay, we are selecting the offering called as financials, but client require only 3 options, not 5 options. Only GL, AP, AR. Here, the project definition itself, you can select will be selecting options also. Which options required? Here, let me write in this way. So, first we have to select offering. Okay, first we'll select the offering. From out of those offering, which options we are going to implement for that client will be selected from here. And again, here we have a flexibility. Say for example, I selected offering as a financials. I selected option called as payables. Again, within the payables, and say here I'm just for example I'm taking here. We know in accounts payables we can create the expense reports also. Expense management. Okay, so this is also one feature. Now I selected offering called as financials, selected option application called as AP as option. Then within the AP, say we have these 4 features. Now I can select which features we are going to implement for this client. I can select, say I may select only invoicing process, payment process and vendor management. Okay, expense management may not be required for this client. They might be having using some third-party application. They may want to continue with the same. In that case, I no need to select the expense management. So this is how you can create the project. Okay, when you are creating the project, while you are creating, you can select which offerings you require. Out of those offering, which options you require. Maybe all are select specific. And within those options, you can select features also. So this is how you can create the project. After creating this project can be assigned to manager and someone who is going to handle this project. Then we can assign project to say PM, project manager. Generally this is how it works, right? After creating the project, who is going to handle that project? The project can be assigned to someone, say project manager. Then now you selected some offerings, options and features, and which offering, which resource is going to implement, or else within that offering which options who is going to take the responsibility of implementation, or else which features will be responsible to define in the system, set up in the system or implement in the system. Accordingly, these offerings or options or features can be assigned to team members. Okay, assign entire offering or selected options or features. Okay, offerings or options or features can be assigned to team members, can be assigned. And after assigning, you can set up the due dates for the task completion. You can set due dates. Say for example, I'm going to assign an option called as entire financial. Within that, I'm selecting all options for resource called as ABC resource. When I'm assigning, I can set the due dates. The task need to be that offerings implementation setup need to be completed by which date. Even when you are creating the project also, you can set up what would be the tentative starting and end date for the project. Okay, you can set a start date and a tentative end date also. Okay, that you can set up for implementation project. Then you can select offerings, options, features. The project can be assigned to the project manager, and we can assign those offerings or options or feature to particular team members, resource who are working on the project. And after the same time, please please mute yourself. Please make sure that you are just kept on mute. Please don't unmute. You're getting a lot of noise from someone. Fine. Okay, fine. So this is how you can assign the particular activities, maybe one particular application implementation or entire financials, or within the payables application only particular tasks, setups need to be completed by which team member and all. Those all you can you mute yourself, please? Who's here? Fine. Fine. You can assign to team members and you can set the due dates also. By doing this, what is the advantage? The person who is handling this project, they can easily monitor the entire project within the system environment. Once, see here again, based on this assignment, as a team member, we can update the status also. Say I got a responsibility of implementing payables under receivables. Once I complete the payable setups, I can update the status, or else before completing also I can update the status. By default it will be not started. Once I start working on payables, I can just change the status to in progress. Once I complete payable setups, I can set the status to completed. And if I'm going to implement receivables application, say within the receivables, say we have around 30 setups which need to be completed to complete the receivables configuration. For each and every setup also, we can go and set the status. Say for example, system options, the setup completed. Transaction types creation, not yet started. Okay, transaction sources in progress. This is how you can do the give the status to each and every task which you are going to perform in the system as a configuration activity. So that based on this information, there will be visibility for the project level for a project manager. Total how many setups we have to complete this implementation project. Maybe say 2000 tasks we have to complete the finance and procurement and project configuration. Out of 2000 tasks, how much percentage or how many tasks in the status of not completed, how many tasks we have with the status called as in progress, and how many tasks are already completed, so that the project performance can be measured by the project manager or other one who is handling that project. There will be great visibility and what are the activities, how many activities need to be completed, and who is responsible for which activity, and how much what is the completion of the project, how much is pending, how much what are the tasks are under kind of errored out or in the risk level. All will be able to track by using this project creation through functional setup manager. Without creating the project, you cannot do any implementation for even single application also. First you have to create the project. While you are creating the project, you have to select these offerings, options, and you have to select the features, and you'll be assigning the project to project manager, and you have to assign to the team members, and you can set the due date so that you can track the progress, or you can start monitoring and you can control the project related activities, and you can set the controls which employee has to which consultant has to perform which activities. For that relevant access also you can set up for the particular consultant. Okay, again, see, everyone cannot go and do the setups. To do complete relevant setups, they require certain roles assignment. The person who has a access to particular role, those consultants only can perform the relevant setups. That also we can set in the system environment. Okay, so these are the points we have to understand. And again, when you talk about offerings, okay, when you talk about offerings, so in EBS environment, when you talk about EBS environment, for certain applications we have to go on to set some profile options which says this product is licensed. Say for example, project costing is licensed application, you have to set the profile option as a yes. Project billing is licensed. This is how you have to set up. That's how we'll be setting some that kind of specifications and all. Or else let me take other example. Simple point. When we are going to create the primary ledger, before that we have to complete some setups. We have to create the calendar, we have to create the chart of accounts, we have to enable the currency, right? If you don't enable the currency, what happens? When you are going to create the primary ledger, you cannot find that currency which is required as a functional currency for your primary ledger. So you have all the currencies in the system. You have all the currencies in the system in EBS, but if you don't enable the currency which you require for your primary ledger definition, you cannot find that currency, so that you cannot complete the definition of primary ledger. In the same way, in Fusion applications, what are the solutions Oracle is offering? All you can see as a different offerings. Okay, what are the solutions Oracle is providing? All you can see as a offerings in the system environment. But if you are going to create any implementation project, say for example, I am going to create implementation project for financials, procurement, and PPM, say project portfolio management, the project accounting or project suite which we have in EBS. As per Fusion we call as PPM, project portfolio management. So have these three offerings in the scope. One is financials, second one is procurement, third offering is PPM, project portfolio management. Now my requirement is I want to create the implementation project by selecting these three offerings. If I try to create implementation project in the fresh environment, you don't find these offerings until unless you go and enable. You cannot find at the time of implementation project. Similar to currency, you can have all the currency in the system, but if you don't enable, you cannot find that currency in the primary ledger creation. In the same way, if when you are going to create any implementation project, for the implementation project, what are the offerings you require out of all the available offerings in the system environment, you have to enable those offerings first. Before you go and create the implementation project, first what we have to do, we have to enable the offerings. Again, that is one time activity. Even currency enabling also one time activity. Once you enable, every time for multiple primary ledger creation also that will be available. Okay, for every definition you don't need to go and do it. In the same way, in the Fusion applications also, if you want to create an implementation project, for the implementation project has which scope, accordingly you have to enable the offerings. Then you can go and create the implementation project. There you can select offerings. Okay, selected offerings, within that all are selected options, or within that all are selected features you can select, that can be assigned to project manager. Then the offerings or options or features can be assigned to team members. Finally you can set up the due dates, so that in the graphical representation, a pie chart representation, you'll be able to view the progress of the project, and you'll, as a project manager or somebody who is monitoring that, handling the project, can control the team members access to particular configuration setups also. Okay, so this kind of control and visibility we can have when we are going to do the project. Once we complete this, then we can start with the setups and all. Okay, when we are going to do in the system, I'll just give the sequence, what sequence we have to follow. That gives you a more idea to do the setups in the system environment. Means where to start, and what is the first step, what is the second step, what is the third step when we are working on, okay, functional setup manager environment, that we'll discuss and we'll be doing. So these are the points I want to share with you to give some understanding about functional setup manager, what is the role of functional setup manager. Okay, without functional setup manager there is nothing you can do, no setups you can perform in the system environment. Now if you have any questions you can ask me.
Lakshman, so you missed any offering while implementing the project. So can we select again?
Yeah, we can add it. We can add it, but we can add it as a within that offering. What are the configurations we have? The configuration wise you can add it. Directly you cannot go and select an offering.
How about the features and options?
Yeah, that's all. That features and option based only. You'll be able to select the features automatically. The features is related to options and offering. That's how you can do it.
Because you said it is a one-time setup, right? So if I miss anything in between and I felt that is also required,
Yeah.
can I go back and reselect them?
See, one-time setup in the sense, yes, one time, but we should see the scope. We should see the scope and all. In the other case, if you don't select, say for example, I created project, I selected financials. When I'll be selecting, because I want to implement only financials. Later, I want to implement a procurement. In that case, I'll be creating as a separate project. Reason you are going to work on it. Basically, these definitions and all required. Basically, when we are doing the setups only. For setup purpose only, you have to select all those things. That is the reason, okay, you will be selecting this. Say you implemented financials. As a second phase, you are going to implement procurement. You no need to select that offering into existing project, but already that implementation project you created, you track the status and you monitored everything, the implementation is done. Now if you are going to implement procurement, yes, again you can create one more project called procurement, so that you will be able to track everything separately. Don't think like these implementations and all going to, I mean, based on this is just setup part. When we are working on the process and all, again we have separate concept called as business unit, business functions and other functions. Based on that, the application will be working. To support that, we require these setups. Okay, you created implementation project for finance, but now you want to add procurement. Directly you cannot add procurement, but within the procurement, what are the all features you have, one by you can add, one by one you can add it. Direct offering you cannot add, but if that is a requirement, you can create for procurement also separate project. That's how we can do it.
So,
We know very well.
so when you say that within the current implementation project, we can add this procurement as an offering. Under that, what are the features options we have? Automatically it will come.
No. What I'm trying to say is, can you mute yourself? Can you mute yourself? I will explain. See, after asking the question, please mute yourself. Yep. See, what I'm trying to say is, you created an implementation project for financials. Now you want to add one more offering to that project. You cannot do that. But within that offering, what are the options we have? Within those options, what are the features we have? All features we can add. If you are adding all the features which are related to total offering related options, that is equal to offering only. Directly you cannot add any offering for existing project. If you want to do the implementation for one more offering, the best practice possibility in the system is you can create one more implementation project. That's all. It's all about to monitor and control the implementation process, not business process. Okay, just setup part only, the project is required. Once you start working on that, the project, whatever the implementation project you created, you are no more you are going to touch it. It's not related to your transaction business process and all. Just for setup, this is one time. See, simple point. You can create one for implementation, finance one implementation project, procurement one implementation project, and PPM separate implementation project. You can have as a three offerings. You can start doing the setup, so that separately will be able to track each and everything. Otherwise, all you can take and you can create a one implementation project by taking three offerings into scope of the project. Anything you can do, it won't make any big difference in the system environment. However you require, you will be creating. We know very well when we are implementing any project, we know what offerings are in the scope. Okay, by just finalizing, once those are get finalized, then only will be creating. If there is some case later client came up with the requirement of I want to go with so and so offering also, in that case, if you want to add that offering related all features into same project, yes, you can add, so that you'll be able to do the setups in the same environment, or else you can create as a separate project. That also will support. That won't become any issue at all in the system process. Anything you can do, that is possible.
Yeah, Lakshman, I have two questions.
Yeah, please.
One thing, you said that we need to have two different offerings, right? If you want to go with one procurement setup and one with payable setup.
Yes.
So, what would be the connection between all these offerings? If they are connected,
there won't be anything. There won't be anything. Just those will be as a two different titles. That's all.
Okay, so how could we connect? See, we got an implementation project, and in a project, they have asked for an example, see, for OM implementation and finance.
Okay.
So then what the scenario over here is, like, we need to have two projects, right? One for OM and one for financials.
No, not required. One only. Okay, finance and OM, you can select as a two offerings and you can create only one project. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay, so what is the case when we need to have, so okay, funds while creating the first part itself, then only we should give the offerings.
Yeah, that's what. If you miss some offerings, say you have in scope finance and OM, as you said.
Okay.
If you know that, you can create the implementation project by selecting those two offerings. Okay.
Okay.
Before you start speaking, can you unmute it, please? Can you unmute yourself? I'll explain. If you have some question, you can unmute and you can ask me. Okay, see, you have finance and OM in the scope of implementation. Since you know which offerings you require, by taking all the offerings, you can create the implementation project. So you have a scope of finance and OM, so OM, order management. Okay, in that case, by using those two offerings, means finance we call as offering, OM we call as options, right? By choosing these two, you can create implementation project. In that case, we don't need to go with a separate implementation project. Take other example, you have only finance in the scope. You completed or you are in the middle of the project. Client is asking to implement procurement also. In that case, procurement related all futures you can select into existing project, or else you may create as a separate project. So only the thing is we have to do the complete the setups, that you can complete all the setups by creating single project or multiple project. That won't makes any difference in the system environment. That's what I'm trying to say. Any questions, please?
Yeah, and let's see, if we, the second scenario what you said, like in the middle of the implementation, so we got the client asked for to implement another module, so we are going to take it as a new project, right?
Yes, or else that new offering, whatever the new offering you are going to implement, the offering related all futures you can add into the existing project also.
Okay, so if see, in the case we have we have taken to create two projects for the same client, then only the setup part we'll be doing, right? So there will be no linkage between both of them.
Nothing, no linkage. Even if you are going to have all the offerings in the one project also, there won't be any linkage.
Okay.
All linkage, all the connectivity will be done through configuration only, not because you have one offering or multiple offering, all are in the one project or different project. There is no difference.
So I think I have one more question, Lakshman. I don't know whether it is relevant or not. So in R2, in R2, like see, we'll be having all these profile options, responsibilities, and all those things. When we talk about Fusion, what's happening is like first we need to create one project, right?
Yeah.
For the implementation.
Yeah.
So when you talk about a project, so it should be, it is like in deep, like in project, like we do in project accounting, or like it's a normal project.
No.
Without any tasks or
not related to project accounting. It is just for what is the plan of implementation you have. That will be addressed by this definition.
So do we have the financial plans over in this kind of implementation?
No,
right?
No, we don't have. It's not related. You don't need to compare with the project accounting. That's what I given one note also while I was explaining. Okay.
Okay.
No relation with the project accounting. Yep.
Okay. No, I was just thinking it might have that feature also, like a minimal kind of thing, like these
correct.
financial plans and all those things.
Correct. No, that is not there in this.
Thanks.
There is no complete solution to manage the projects in our environment. It's only just high level. If any client wants to do the implementation, they want to monitor, they want to control the expense or billing and all, definitely they should go with some project accounting based solutions. Okay.
And in the middle of the project, see, if you want to change the project manager, then the roles and responsibilities will be transferred to the new one, right?
No. Every project manager will have a roles and responsible roles, and once you assign this project to that manager, those roles will get assigned. Accordingly, system will behave.
Okay. If something like the manager got like he left the company or something like that, if anything happens to that can what would be the chance over there? Like how to change the existing person?
Just go and edit and change the person. That's it. We have edit option. That's all. It's not a big activity. We'll go and change the project person. That's all.
So that's it, right? No need to do anything, in deep, right? Like change.
Not required. Not required. These are not like roles in the project accounting roles. Okay, these are the user-based roles. That's all.
Sure.
Yeah.
Lakshman, Srini here.
Yes, Srini, please.
So let's say actually, we have implemented the initial project and it's going live and everything is fine. So the later on, actually, client actually asked us to roll out to other country or maybe like within the country, new operating in or something like. So I hope actually is this going to be the new project, or do we need to can I assign these all the offerings and everything in the existing project?
So one country you just already went live and you want to implement for other country, right?
Yes.
So in that case, you no need to go and create one more project, not required. In the existing project only, you can do the setups for multiple countries, not required. But if you want to have a separate for tracking purpose, yes, you can create it. I said that doesn't makes any difference. That doesn't makes any difference. You are doing within or different. Only whether you are completing the setups and all, that would be the focus. If you are going to do the for 2 more countries or 3 more countries rollout engagement, yes, within the same environment you can go and create. See, within the same environment you will be having the function called as task called as create ledger. Sorry, create calendar. By using the create calendar, you can create for multiple countries, multiple calendar. By within the same project, whatever the task you have called as create primary ledger, you can create the primary ledger for multiple countries. You can create everything, legal entities for multiple countries. You can create multiple business units for multiple countries. You can complete the status for n number of countries from single project only. Not required to go with separate one. But you may want to go,
Okay.
since you want to track per particular country wise, you want to track the status. In that case, yes, you can have a separate project definitions. But because of these, nothing is going to be changed. No behavior system is going to have, because you have one or two. Only the point is the tracking will become easy. Tracking will become easy.
Got it.
Yeah, yeah.
So one more question. Is this similar to the iSetup function in the previous versions, like EBS?
iSetup.
Yeah,
What is iSetup? Really, I'm not aware of that.
it's a module, right? iSetup module actually you have in the
Oh,
EBS.
no, no. iSetup, I'm not really aware of that. I never come across that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Lakshman,
yeah.
actually I have in Fusion, I have created one ledger, primary ledger, and run the review and submit accounting. Yeah, it is completed error. In fact, I sent an email yesterday. Yeah, so I shared the log files, everything. So from this, I cannot able to proceed further because until unless I complete the ledger. Can you let me know what could be the possible reasons and where you need to check how to figure it out?
Sure, definitely. We'll discuss this offline because this is a different session, right? So I think you are attending for other session. We'll be discussing. Already I given the reply to your mail also. You can go through it.
Yep.
But anyway, just definitely we'll be getting support. We'll discuss after this call. Okay, after this session we'll have a discussion. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions? Any other questions? Okay, I have some. Should we assign ourselves as a PM for implementation? Any other questions? Yeah, ourselves or somebody can assign. It can be done by. You can assign project to anyone. It can be ourselves or it can be done by anyone, or else we can assign the project to anyone. Others. Here I have one question: whether we have to assign ourselves as a project manager or somebody will assign. Yes, we can assign or others can assign. There are no restrictions, no conditions or rules. So after the setups of futures, this default to all the data roles irrespective of what setup in IDM. After the setup of futures, okay, we want to setting this defaults to all data roles irrespective of the what setups we did. What setups in IDM? FSM. Okay, this is should be FSM. Yes, based on the setups, once whenever you create a primary ledger or business unit, automatically system will be creating the data roles. Okay, that anyway we'll see when we are working, but it's more into some practical system knowledge is required in that case. Any other questions? Okay, fine. If you don't have any questions, we can wind up the session for today. And if you have some questions, you can unmute and you can ask me, or else you can just type in the chat window. Anything is fine.
Yeah, Lakshman, one question here.
Please.
Like the business unit is created and the job role is created, so we'll get the data role.
No. Sorry. Here, no. Sorry. You said a business group, business unit is. Can you mute it? Can you mute, please? We are getting a lot of noise. So you said like a business unit is created and job roles will be created. No, job roles are not created. Job roles are seeded. When you create the business, by default, job roles will be there. Just will create the business unit. Once you create the business unit will get assigned to job roles. That assignment combination we call as data roles. Now you can continue with your question.
So during the implementation, we do not select few of the features, like we don't select invoice creation.
Yeah.
And when we are creating a user profile in IDM, right? And we will create him as a AP manager. So will that override it in this Fusion, or it will remain the same functionality in Fusion as well?
So sorry, I didn't get your question.
What I'm saying is, like during the implementation project, we
Okay.
do not select few of the features,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And in IDM, we are creating.
Yeah. I got your question. I got your question. Can you mute yourself? Right. See, at the time of implementation, we did not select certain features, but when we are giving access to the user to act as a say payables manager and all. In that case, what happens is, so since you are giving access to payables manager or some other role and all, what happens is system will give the access to that user to a particular form. But since the setup is not available in the system environment, since that is not in the scope of the implementation, you cannot perform any activity. You will be able to access that screen, but you cannot do anything because setup data is not available for that. That's it. No impact, no effect. P2P or O2C cycles, you create anything, just there is no impact. Finally, system will look for to support this operating unit or to support this primary ledger setups are done or not. It won't. It is the system is not going to count whether setups are completed from only project 1 or project 2 or 3 or 4 and all, nothing. Okay, there is no impact. That I made it as very clear. You can create one or multiple, there won't be any difference. Just system will see whether completed or not. Why project is required? Just so that you can track the progress of the project, how much is completed now. Yes, we'll be seeing all the setups from right from beginning. Yes, we'll see from scratch. See, after this session, you'll be able to work as a Fusion Financials implementation consultant. I'll be showing from scratch level in the fresh environment from where we'll be starting. From there, I'll be showing. It's not like already some setups are there, and on top of it, I'll be showing something else. Not like that. I'll be taking you from very scratch level. Okay, we'll do in that way. Otherwise, there won't be any use for the attendees who are attending. I'm not happy with that, first of all.
And Lakshman, one more question. Like, see,
Yeah.
what would be the percentage of we can clear the certification? I don't know whether you can ask or not.
See, frankly speaking, if you, there are some people. Can you mute yourself?
Yeah, sure.
See, I request you all the time. Just once you complete the question, you please mute yourself. Otherwise, we are getting some noise. If you okay. See, frankly speaking, the people who are already working on EBS, straight away they cannot go on to complete they cannot clear the certification on EBS. That is for sure. The same scope you have for Fusion also. Through this training, you will be getting the knowledge where you can start working on the Fusion application, where there will be certain things which you have to explore and all. So here also, like, see, in the EBS, if you want to clear and all, there will be some dumps and all. The dumps you have to get, and you have to go through those dumps and all. Then you'll be having you'll be knowing exactly which questions will come out in that test. So what should be the proper answer and all, you can by heart, or you can remember all the questions and answer. Accordingly, you can appear and you will be through that interview. I mean to say, like, the test and all. So here also same case existed. Through this training, you will be acquiring some good amount of knowledge where you can start working on the Fusion applications. I cannot, or someone cannot promise through some training you'll be able to clear it. If I get some kind of any dumps and all, I'll be sharing. Okay, but I cannot give any promise on that. That I'll be taking as some offline. Just if you are interested to do some certification and all, yes, I'll be just supporting for that. That I can do, but there's no point of certification which I can relate with this course and on top of this course. But if you are interested, if you are planning for some certification, whatever the best possibility and support I can give, I can do that. Just getting that dumps and help, just forwarding to you and guiding, and which areas you have to focus if you are going to clear that exam and all. That I can discuss with you, but that would be offline discussion, not as a part of this course. Please share the documents we will study. Yes. I'll be sharing the course content. Okay. Today I will be sharing that course content.
Yeah. And Lakshman Srini here again.
Yeah, Srini, please.
Yeah. So the create implementation project, right? Actually, I mean, what is the main idea actually on this one? So I mean, just to track it for the
Just that's all.
like,
That's it. That is the
okay.
point. That just for tracking purpose. Otherwise, nothing. See, a simple point. Take example as in EBS, you are doing the implementation. Everything need to be tracked outside of the system. The manager can have some Excel sheet or the internal company related project management, some dashboard and all. They'll be putting the status. These are the modules we are going to implement. 50% completed. So and so resource. This much is completed. So that they can do the reporting for their higher management and reporting managers or some delivery head, etc., etc. So instead of maintaining the project related progress and all outside of the system, they given the flexibility where that can be tracked within the system, where online updates can be uh, visible. You can have a online updates. Say for example, some consultant completed payable setups. Until unless we'll send a mail to manager, manager cannot take the status into the spreadsheet or dashboard which is maintaining for tracking the project. So instead of going with that kind of scenario, here Oracle given the flexibility, okay, within the system environment only you can do the tracking. Other than that, there is no great advantage or it's not a great future more than this.
Okay.
Yeah.
So can we include all the custom functions also in this one? Like if I want to do any custom objects or custom program, so do we include
program not will be just working on how to create the custom roles. Okay, however we create the custom menus in the EBS in the same way how to create the custom roles that will be covered. This course is purely functional and for functional front what are the basic some kind of knowledge what in which areas required that will be covering. We are not going to work on
what I'm asking actually within the create implementation project, like in the project actually if it is required like any module requires any customization, like the one function is not supporting, the seeded function is not supporting the
I got your
line,
question.
so we need to do that.
I got your question. See, for that we require ADF developer, application desktop framework. Okay, ADF. In EBS, if you want to develop the form, you should know Oracle Forms, D2K.
Yeah, I mean, what I mean to say is actually, can we include those kind of function into the create implementation project?
Those you can develop. You can develop and you can add into particular option. Then that you can take into implementation project so that kind of setup can be done. That's
it. Yeah.
That can
so
be,
that can be tracked.
Yeah, that can be tracked actually. Yeah, that can be possible. Okay. Yes. You can registration. That's all about in Fusion EBS also we call as developing on form and registering, which will be visible or available for particular application. Same way here also you can do that. Customization can be possible. It can be form or web page. Here complete web page environment. No more forms we are going to see in the Fusion. Again, this is going to be single user interface. In EBS, what happens once you just go and open, it will be keep opening the forms and all. There will be tabs. Once you click again, it will open one more form. This kind of sequence forms will be open. Because of that, only you'll be getting many bugs and all when you are working on the process. So, but here it's just single user interface. Okay, you don't find that kind of environment what you see in the EBS.
Got it. Thanks, Lakshmi.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions? Fine. If you don't have any questions, we can wind up the session for today. Okay. Fine. Thanks for joining the session. Okay. Fine. And we'll have a next session in the next weekend. Okay. Same time we'll be starting. Okay. And the duration will be as per the mail whatever you send. It will be say for 50 to 60 hours. Or else, I mean, within how much time we can complete that can be decided by participants. I'm flexible to take how many hours you are interested to attend the classes. Okay, so that's how it goes. Fine. We'll see in the next weekend. Thank you. Thanks.